Welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today is the first day of June and I am working on Scraplift Crafternoon. This week we are scraplifting Dorothy from Scrapbooking Quebec, and she has this beautiful 2-page layout for us to scraplift. It is a stunner. And I really enjoy watching her YouTube channel, and so I will have all of her information linked down below so that you can check her out. Leave her some love. Tell her hello from the Scraplift Crafternoon team. She will be tagged in our posts on Instagram and or Facebook, and hopefully she will enjoy the work that we are going to do. Now, I am not going to guarantee everybody is going to follow her 2-page layout exact. I know that a couple of my ladies prefer doing 1-page layouts, and I typically prefer to do that on camera as well because frankly it is really hard to make sure that you can see the 2-page layouts, but I think I figured out a way to make it work easily. And so let's talk about the product that I'm going to be using. First off, I still have not managed to use up these letters, and they are still a hot mess here, and I'm finding them everywhere. So I'm going to use these for part of my title. I have Simple Vintage Woodlands from Simple Stories here on my desktop. I have this cut file, and this is what I'm going to be using in place of the wreath that we have on Dorothy's layout. I love her cut file, and I'm pretty sure I had that overlaid circle-y wreath thing that she used in my cameo, but I chose to go with this, and I cut it in craft paper, as you can see. I am going to back that off camera with some cardstock pieces, and I'm probably going to be using the offset function in my cameo to do a lot of it, just simply because that will be fast. Some of the little pieces like the openings in the leaves, I'm going to leave open, but the flowers and the mushrooms, I'm definitely going to go ahead and back, but I'll do that off camera. I have 2 pieces of white cardstock, and then I also have Simple Stories Walnut Color Vibe. I have 3 sheets of that. She matted her 2-page layout with what looks like wood grain. It's hard for me to tell in that photo, but that is my guess. And then she had a piece of wood grain going across the center to anchor her photo. So I pulled out 3 of the same piece. It's not quite the color of the wood grain in the collection, but it's gonna work for this. These are my photos, and I'm gonna be putting a few more photos on mine. She had 6, and that's what I printed first. And then I went ahead and printed a sheet of 2x2 photos to add to my layout. These are the 3 pieces of pattern paper that I chose for the background. And then I have, of course, I showed you the stickers, and I have a couple embellishments here that I'm going to use. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to get started on backing this cut file, and I will be right back. It started storming really hard, so I had to back the cut file and just kind of walk away until the next day because the storm was so loud that I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to hear my voiceover. So now I am mostly ready to go. That cut file is backed, and I have cut the 3 sheets of pattern paper down. I have, they're each 4 inches wide. And one of the things that I noticed in her layout is that she had torn edges on the bottom of the strips that she put on her background, but they were torn from the backside, which meant there was no white tearing bit. And I'm like, well, that looks really cool. So I went ahead and I did that right away with this first piece, and then the second piece I accidentally tear the front, and so you're going to see me tear the front and then flip it over and tear just a little strip off the back so that it is the same as this green piece. My green piece is going to go in the middle, and I have already made sure that it meets up because I made sure I put the two cuts from the same section of the paper together. I am making sure that my background pieces are even so that this will be even. Now I am going to put my next two pieces kind of up and down. They're not going to be even all the way across, kind of to still go with, along with the torn edges on the bottom. And here I am trying to see which side goes which way. And then I realized it doesn't matter because they're not going to be next to each other, but okay. So here's where I tear it from the front, and then I immediately realize, oops, I was tearing from the back. So I flip it over and I just tear that tiny little bit off the bottom so that I have the torn edge exactly like the green. Not a big deal, and I am going to throw those torn pieces away. I'm not going to bother keeping any of them. I have enough scraps without having to deal with every tiny little piece, so for me this was something that worked well. And first I lay down those pieces, and you can see that I've kind of made them level all the way across. And then I realized I don't care for that look as much as I thought I would, so I will pull it off here in a minute. So this one I raise above the green a little bit, and I'm going to very carefully pull this off my background. And it does tear my background paper just a little bit, but I'm going to cover it up so it's not a big deal. And so that makes sure that I have enough space for the other side. And the blue piece I remember to tear from the back, so I don't have to double tear, and that works out nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and put those down, and I'm going to leave a little bit of white edge on the far sides of each on this part of it, because if you looked closely at Dorothy's layout, you will see that she also had two 6x12 sheets going down the middle, and so those are going to go right across all the way to the edge of each side. At first I was worried about covering up that knot in the pattern paper, but I decided it just wasn't that big of a deal. Let's talk about my white background just a little bit. You can see that I matted it with the wood grain, the same sheet of wood grain that I'm using here. I had 3 total, and they're exactly the same. I did gut those wood grain pieces, so I have 2, I think, 10 by 10 squares of wood grain to go into my scraps. I will probably use those pretty quickly. Wood grain gets used quickly in my stash. I adore how this cut file came out, and I hate that I have to cover up the right hand side with my photos, but I leave enough of it open so that you can tell that it goes well with the pattern paper. So I have the larger photo of my sister and I and my daughter, and I'm kind of just moving it up a little bit because I do want you to see that bottom mushroom a little bit, so I moved it up a tad. I have the other photos, and I said I printed 6 photos at the beginning. I actually printed 5, and matted them all off camera with white cardstock. It appears my blade is a little bit dull, and it made my white cardstock edges jagged, but that's okay because I kind of like the distressed look that it gave it, and I just didn't worry about it. I need to make a note that I need to get another blade because I think I have no more blades for that Fiskars trimmer, and for now I have set aside my Tim Holtz precision trimmer because it is destroying paper and it's starting to really aggravate me. I really wish that Tonic Studio would fix the problem instead of tell us that it's a blade issue, and it's not a blade issue. They told me it was a burr on the blade. That is absolutely untrue because the same issue happened with my they sent me a new trimmer to replace it because it was destroying my base, and told me that it was an issue with the burr, and that's not true. It's not an issue with a burr on the blade. I verified that every blade I've put into the new trimmer does not have a burr, including the one that's in there now. This is just a design flaw that I wish they would fix. Anyway, rant over about that trimmer, because otherwise I really love that trimmer. So let's get back. I've got my 6 smaller photos. I'm kind of trying to make room for those on this layout and still mostly keep true to her design. She had 3 embellishment clusters, one up there on the upper right, one kind of on the lower right, and then she had another one kind of in the middle. Well, because I used a cut file that is so decorative, I decided to not add any more embellishment clusters because it was going to detract from my cut file. She had a date down on one of her cut pattern papers, and so I'm doing the same. This hike was taken in 2023, so this is a newer set of photos versus, me going back and forth between 2016 and 2017. I pulled this set of photos mostly because I knew that it went very well with this pattern paper, and I knew I had enough photos to do a 2-page layout. No biggie on all of that. So on these green letters, I did have to Frankenstein a couple of them. I did not have enough N's or a U to fully spell out hiking fun, so I cut down a Y and another H to make a U and an N for the word fun. I don't know that you can tell that, except for I just told you I did it. But again, these letters don't stick well. And in fact, they stick to everything, or they don't stick to anything except for one another, which I have found seriously annoying. I did manage to get them tucked back into their 6x12 Ziploc bag, so hopefully now I won't be finding them all over the floor, table, on a cat's bottom because they sat on them, that sort of thing. So because I, at this point, decided that we were not going to be using the other piece of ephemera that I have up there at the top right, I am just going to pull in several of these hearts, and that is going to be the embellishments. I did not want to cover up any of my photos with the vellum and journaling, although I love how that looks on Dorothy's layout. I just really did not want to cover up my photos with it. So that's an idea that I'm going to have to set aside for another time, and I am going to write my journaling on those labels that are on the lower left hand of the second page. You can see those sitting there. I'm kind of picking through the hearts, getting hearts that will stand out on my background where I place them, and I'm pretty happy with what I've chosen so far. I really think that I'm done. I did pick up the sticker sheet again and just set it aside. I ended up not pulling anything at all from the sticker sheet, and I thought I would. But again, I have plenty of embellishments on here with my cut file that's backed and what I chose to put on here, so I'm happy with the way that this has turned out. All right, I got this layout completely finished. I really love, oops, my back is not stained. I really loved this cut file, and I'm gonna have to use it again in a manner where I don't cover up half of it, but it's a beautiful cut file, even prettier than I had imagined. Because my title isn't on the cut file or around the cut file like it is on the original layout, I moved it over here. There's plenty of space for it there, so I liked that. And of course, as you saw, I added more photos than what was on the original layout, but smaller, just to kind of include them all. There will be another layout about this hike because this hike brought us to the very back side of Fort Knox. And while my daughter and I are both ID card holders, my sister's not. And we kept seeing these signs, government property, do not go pass this line. And of course, my sister, being the rebel she is, did that very thing. So I have a photo of her standing there defying the government. Haha. It was funny. It was a very funny thing, and easy to get, because there wasn't really any fencing, and we didn't really realize what was going on until we got up there. But it was okay. We didn't do anything other than take a picture of her in front of the no trespassing type sign. I just think it's a hilarious story, and it deserves its own little page. But this hike was very, very short, and the waterfall was very, very small. And after living in New York State, up near the Canadian border, where waterfalls are plentiful and not this tiny, there are some that are tiny, but there are so many. I know that Emily was like, this isn't a waterfall. I'm like, it is, just not what you're used to seeing. So anyway, so we had a good day that day. It was fun. My sister came to hang out with me while my husband was deployed for my birthday, and guess what? She's coming again this year for the same reason, because she loves me, and I love her too. So we're gonna probably get into all kinds of trouble since there's no kids to watch, but we'll see about those adventures, and we'll talk more about those another time. I want to thank you for coming to my channel today. I really appreciate those of you who take the time to like, comment, and or subscribe. If you're new here, I would love to have you as a subscriber. And if you have any comments or questions about this layout, any product I used, I didn't really do a technique other than backing that cut file, just drop those down in that comment box below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. In my description box below my video, there is a playlist for this week's Scraplift Crafternoon. Those of us on the tribe, there are 11 of us who are participating this week. Our videos will be linked there, and you can just click that playlist and watch. It'll be a great time. And please leave them some love on their channels too. We are all trying to build our channels, and I think it's amazing that you guys are willing to help us do that. Also in that description box is a link to Dorothy's Instagram and her YouTube channel. She is the queen of double pages, so if you prefer creating double pages, you definitely want to subscribe to her channel. She makes amazing double page layouts, which is why this layout was chosen for this week. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your Sunday and a good week. Bye.